Okay, once you've got your sill wrap and your caps on, now we're going to cover this wood. Okay, in this case, this job was left pretty much unfinished. But what we're going to do is we're going to cap, if you can see here on the stucco, the discoloration, we're going to use a piece that extends over and covers that discoloration. In your case, what you're looking to do is measure the distance this way from whatever's here that you need to cover. If, let's say this is wood, and then this part of your house, let's say, is siding, and you want to cover this wood up to the siding. You need to get the dimensions from here over to where it's going to 90 degrees to your window. That's one dimension of that's the dimension of one leg of your 90-degree piece that you have to order. The easiest way to do it is just put a square on there, okay, and just measure over, because this square is hitting the wood that you're going to want to cover with that return leg, and all you do is just measure over. In our case, we need a 2-inch piece this way. Now you got to measure out from the window flush to here to get the dimensions of that leg, and all you do is just put something straight on there, okay, and measure out, and we have 1 1/4 inches, okay. So I need a 2 by 1 1/4. Well, I don't sell a 2 by 1 1/4. I sell a 2 by 2. I sell a 1 1/2 by 1 1/2. In this case, you've got to take a 2 by 2 and cut one of the legs down from 2 to 1 1/4. Okay, and that's what we're going to do. Now let me show you, once you figure out what dimension you're going to need. Now keep something in mind. You can order the window sill wrap and this trim all at once. You can already know what size you're going to need. You don't have to wait till this is on. You determine, what I'm showing you here, you determine that before you place your order, so you know what sizes you need. You also need to know what lengths. I sell in certain lengths. You got to get the right sizes. I don't ship anything over, I believe it's 80 inches, because the shipping goes over $100 an order, and most people aren't going to spend $100 in shipping. So I keep the longest piece that I sell is 80 inches. Okay, here's how you measure the height. Your piece is going to be resting here. This is a slope. So you want to measure from the high part of the slope, because when you come out, yeah, there's going to be a little space here, not much, 1/16 of an inch maybe, because you're angling, but you're going to caulk that. So you're going to hide that gap. So you put it on in here, and you go up. Now where you're going up here is where the top piece has to come down and 90 degrees into here. That's where you want to stop, so they meet. And that happens to be the base of this wood piece right here where your new window frame is showing. So that's where you're measuring, and I got 21 1/2. I always knock off a 1/16 because I don't want to get tight here, and again, I'm going to be sealing all that. So a 1/16 of an inch, we're just going to cover it anyway. So I knock off, so I'm going to go 21 7/16. You do that on both sides, and you cut it. Again, you can use a chop saw, hacksaw, whatever you got, and you cut those lengths. Okay, after you've cut your lengths, remember you have to cut one of the 2-inch legs down to 1 1/4. The process is the same as the sill wrap piece that I showed you. Put yourself a straight edge on there, and then you can use your plastic cutting tool, jigsaw, or even the table saw will work. Okay, we're going to use the same Dynaflex 230 to seal here. I want to show you where to put it. You put it on the face of out here, whatever you've got there, the wood or whatever. In this case, we're putting it right here. Now, this wood trim that's on here is quarter round. It's angled, so the actual extrusion that we put in is only going to touch the very back part of this wood. In your case, you probably have a square or rectangular piece and more surface that you're going to contact. But in our case, I've got to put this adhesive right up into that corner where it meets the frame, because that's kind of where we're going to make contact. And then I'm also going to run a bead right down here, right down the middle of this part here. Okay, so that's what it looks like once you've installed it. You do that on both sides, and then the last step is you've got to do the top, and I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, the last step is you got to do the top piece. Have somebody help you out. What you want to do is you want to hook your tape measure on the outside of one of your angles here. Run your tape all the way across and get your measurement on the outside of this one. We're 50 and 5/8. That's the length that you have to cut that top piece. Now, you got one other step here. You've got a notch, because your top is going to come all the way to here, but that return under here is only going to come to here. So you have to notch this, and all you do is just whatever size you're using here, in my case 2-inch, you got to notch 2 inches off of each end. Okay, again, I usually notch another 1/16 because I'm going to be caulking these corners anyway. So let's go ahead and cut that now. Okay, after you cut the length, now I went ahead and I cut the return leg because it's not 2 inches, and I already cut that down. But you have to notch. It's real simple with the jigsaw. You make your mark. That's 2 1/16 of an inch that I've marked, and you just cut that. I'll do it like this. You just cut, you know, right up to the edge. Then you can either, well, one way to do it is to just bend this out straight, and then you can take your jigsaw and bend and cut. There's a line on there. You just cut that line. I like to hold it here so it doesn't flap around. You can use the plastic cutter there also if you don't have the jigsaw, and then make sure you get this burrs. You know, you get your file and file all those burrs off of there, so you got a nice clean notch. Do it on both sides. Okay, I got the top piece in. You can see how it lays on top of this one, but if you look over here, there is a little bit of a space, but that's going to get sealed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to seal this crack. I'm going to go down where the window meets the extrusion here, all the way down to the bottom. You can see the gap here. The gap was created because of the slope, but I'm going to caulk all that. So when it's done, you're not going to see any of that. Now, one thing in this case here, I have to put my piece down here to finish off my window, and I'm going to do that before I seal. That's my next step. I'm going to put this piece on, then I'm going to seal everything. Okay, one more thing before we're done with this job. If you look underneath the windowsill, they added this trim, this wood piece. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that too. It's just an L shape. It's not, you know, you want to measure up under here, get your dimensions going this way, and then measure under here for this. And again, this is 3/4 of an inch by 2. So I'm going to have to use a 2 by 2. And I'm going to have to cut the one leg down from 2 to 3/4 of an inch. And what I do on these, when it's exposed on the end like this, is I'll stick it over. The caps don't work. They're not going to work on this. But what I do is I'll measure this wood, and I'll add 1/4 of an inch on each side so it sticks over. And then I fill that with white caulking. And then I smooth it out with a putty knife. And it acts as its own cap, because I don't have any caps to cover that. And if you just make it flush, you can paint the wood white, but you're going to have wood showing on the ends. You can do it either way. I prefer to stick it over and then caulk that in. Okay, that's what it looks like after you're done. You seal the gaps here. You seal where the trim meets the window all the way down here. Over here, I told you we had the gap because of the slope. You caulk that gap. You don't see anything there. Then if you come around here to the side where we've got our end cap meeting the structure, you'll see we've trimmed there. And like I told you, what I do on this bottom piece is I extend it out about 1/4 of an inch beyond the edge of the wood, and then I just fill it with caulk like that to make its own cap. Okay, so this whole thing now is done. Before we leave, I just wanted to show you, you can paint this extrusion to match the color of your house. You know, I painted one brown, one green. This is just Krylon spray paint that I used. You have to use a spray-on procedure. You can't brush it on because it doesn't absorb the paint. So you just put it on either with a spray can or a spray gun. But just keep something in mind. The purpose of this is to eliminate maintenance, no painting. This stuff here, now you've created a maintenance issue because eventually you're going to need to repaint this. But I don't know how long it'll last, how long one application will last, but it does hold the paint. I mean, this does hold it. Keep one thing in mind: you don't want to paint your windows. You void the warranty if you paint the actual window. Okay, and we're not done yet. I want to show you a couple other things you can do with this material on the front of your wood. Okay, here's another example of how you can cover your wood. This is a piece that's 3.5 inches across, and then you've got the wood here. Okay, I don't have anything again that's going to fit over here like a U, so you have to use basically 3 separate pieces. But what you can do is you can use flat trim. This is the wide one, 2 1/4. You can peel off the tape, and you basically put it in the center and attach it, and then you can take your angles, and again you can cap against the window and onto here, and you can do that on both sides. Now I haven't cut these down. You'd have to cut these down. This is a 1.5 by 1.5. The 1.5 this way is fine. In fact, you could go with a 2. This way needs to be cut. It's too big. So you would cut it down like I showed you with the tools and apply it, and you'd have something like that, where you'd have your wood would be complete.